So, Dr. Grandin, when you look at your career, what's the one thing in terms of animal welfare you're the most proud of?
Well, I'm really proud of the auditing systems that I implemented for the meatpacking plants that originally started with McDonald's and Wendy's. Because now you had big customers insisting on some standards. And I developed a very simple scoring system. Instead of going into a plant and saying, well, I think it's good or bad, I count. How many cattle did you stun on the first shot? How many cattle did you poke with the electric prodder? How many cattle fell down? And you're only allowed 3 cattle out of 100 up in the stunning area mooing and bellowing. You got more than 3 cattle mooing and bellowing, they're going to fail the audit. They had to make certain numbers. It was very simple, and it resulted in a lot of change back in 1999 and 2000 when that was first implemented. I'm very proud of that. I'm also very proud of a lot of the facilities I've designed. In fact, half the cattle in North America are handled in my center track restrainer system.
And I guess when you look at the future, do you think there's a lot more work to be done in terms of cattle handling and animal welfare?
Well, in cattle handling, it takes constant management to keep cattle handling good. There's a tendency for cattle handling to slip back bad. Yes, there's 10-20% of people that will always be good. Other people tend to lapse back into yelling and screaming and poking with prods unless you just keep monitoring it. And some of the big plants now, like Cargill at High River, have put in video auditing, where auditors down in the States can actually look in at the stunning area and the unloading and the cattle handling area, and it solves a problem of people acting good when they know they're being watched, so they never know when they're going to be watched, and they're scored with the objective scoring system.
I remember from the movie, of course, there was lots about looking at the cattle's eyes and that fear and some of those. In terms of some of the, like with the snake, with the block sides to make sure they don't know that there's...
One of the reasons putting solid sides up is so they don't see distractions, you know, that people going by, trucks driving by, you know, those sorts of things. That's where it's especially important to have the solid sides. And the non-slip flooring is very important. It's also important to design your crowding pen so as the cattle come on around, they're going back to where they come from. Then you're taking advantage of that natural behavior to go back to where they come from.
Mm-hmm. How much of a lot of your research and some of the work you've done also applies to things like horses? Not in terms of horse slaughter, but in terms of general handling of horses.
Well, people ask me, you know, what helps me understand animal behavior. I'm an extreme visual thinker. And so an animal is a sensory-based thinker. It thinks in pictures, it thinks in audio, it thinks in smells. It's very much into detail. And animals will associate a bad experience with something they were seeing or hearing right at the moment the bad experience happened. Like there was one animal terrified of diesel-powered equipment. If it ran with gas engine, it was fine, but diesel was associated with really bad experiences. It's real important that cattle and horses have a good first experience with new things, like a horse trailer or going through a new set of corrals. Because if a first experience with something new like a horse trailer is bad, it's very, very easy for them to get a fear memory.
And do you think when a lot of people that are working on ranches or working in a feed yard, they make that mistake that animals perceive danger or have develop fear based on how we do? That it's maybe not as much...
Well, I'm always getting asked all the time, do cattle know they're going to get slaughtered? Well, that's a question I had to answer very early in my career. And I found that the animals behaved the same way at the slaughterhouse as they did in the vaccinating chute. If they knew they were going to get slaughtered, they ought to be a lot wilder at the slaughterhouse. They're afraid of a lot of little things we don't notice. Reflections, gates jiggling. I was in a place the other day and this little gate just jiggled and they wouldn't walk by that. Moving water with reflections on it, metal that jiggles, seeing people walk by, green gloves waving around. They tend to notice little details that we tend to not notice.